we proceed to a more detailed analysis of the American party system, let's take a moment to elaborate Burnham's and Soroff's observations by developing a visual representation of a democratic political system. In this model, assuming we're talking about the American political system, we have roughly 250 million individuals. Next, we have a number of intermediary structures, such as political parties, interest groups, mass media, etc. Next, we see the familiar legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. Finally, we have the public policy decisions and actions made by and carried out by government. The democratic nature of this model is suggested by the upward flow, suggesting ultimately that policy decisions and actions made by government are based on the input of the political individuals at the bottom and reflect their input. For this reason, we can refer to these features of our political system as input structures. Political parties are positioned between political individuals and government. In this way, they play a similar role to that played by interest groups, public opinion, mass media, and the electoral process. They channel the demands and expectations of individuals to government. Of course, political parties are different from interest groups and the other input structures in important ways as well, which is why we distinguish them from the others. For now, we are focusing solely on the role of political parties, so let's eliminate the others from our consideration. Burnham and Soroff suggest that in the absence of political parties in this intermediary role, the ability of individuals to have an effect on the policy decisions and actions made by government is limited. Indeed, it likely comes down to a matter of how much power one wields as an individual, which may ultimately be a matter of how wealthy the person is. Political parties, in other words, emerged in modern political systems to provide a means for people who are unable to exert individual influence on government policymakers to have an impact on government through collective action. To be a bit more precise, the democratic theory underlying the role of political parties can best be described by identifying the three interrelated purposes of political parties in modern political systems. First, political parties organize individuals who are otherwise limited in their ability to shape government policymaking. This first purpose of political parties is not an end in itself. It is a function necessary to execute the second purpose, which is to capture government, or to take over and control government. Political parties capture government by running candidates who are committed to the party's philosophy and policy ideals in an effort to win elections. Presumably, by winning elections, a political party can take over and control government. However, this also is not really the end game for political parties, although many Americans appear to believe that it is. Many Americans appear to be convinced that all the Democrats or Republicans care about is winning elections, that holding power is the ultimate goal of the two major parties in our system. But in reality, the parties want to win elections as a means to control the policy agenda, so they can make public policy based on their vision and their philosophy. Here we can ask some fundamental questions. First, on what basis do people organize themselves into a political party? At a minimum, they share some basic notions about the role of government in our society and our economy, as well as general agreement about the sort of things government ought to be doing and the sort of things government ought not be doing. They also likely share ideas about which specific policies government ought to pursue. This certainly doesn't mean that all members of a political party agree on the details of all policies. Indeed, there can be significant debate within both of the two major parties in the American political system. All Democrats don't agree on everything. All Republicans don't agree on all things. Second, why do political parties run candidates for legislative, executive, and in some jurisdictions, judicial offices as well? Theoretically, when parties nominate candidates to run for office, they choose candidates who are committed to and will enact the party's philosophy and policy ideals if they are elected to office. If the party's philosophy and statement of policy principles, called a party platform, are based on the preferences and expectations of the party's membership, then when they are successful in electing their candidates to office and take over and control government, policies that are ultimately made by government will reflect the expectations and preferences of the rank-and-file party membership. This is the democratic theory of political parties. It is one thing to say that a democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. It is another thing for the people to have a means by which they can take over and control government. Political parties emerged in modern political systems to provide the means by which the people can govern themselves.